If you've been experiencing recurring headaches and nothing seems to explain them, your neck might be the reason why. Cervicogenic headache is one of the most common causes of recurring headaches and one of the most commonly missed. A significant portion of people who are managed as migraine or tension headache sufferers have a cervical contribution to their symptoms. My name is Fadis. I'm a physiotherapist at the MSK Studio in Adelaide, and I work specifically with people dealing with spinal conditions, including cervicogenic headaches. In this video, I'm going to explain what cervicogenic headaches are, how it differs from migraine and tension headaches, what the signs are that your neck might be driving your headaches, and what a physiotherapy assessment and management may look like. If you've been dealing with recurring headaches and you also notice tightness or stiffness in your neck, this video is for you. Let's start with the basics. What actually is a cervicogenic headache? The word cervicogenic headache simply means cervico, referring to the neck, and genic means originating from. So cervicogenic headache is a headache that originates from the neck, specifically from the upper cervical spine. The upper three vertebrae in your neck, C1, C2, and C3, share a pain pathway with the nerves that supply your head. This shared pathway exits in a region of the brainstem called the trigeminal cervical nucleus. When the joints at C1, C2, or C3 become stiff or dysfunctional, that shared pain pathway means the symptoms can be felt in the head rather than the neck, or both at the same time. Cervicogenic headache is estimated to account for around 15 to 20% of chronic headache cases. That's a significant number of people whose headaches may have a cervical contribution. One of the reasons cervicogenic headache gets missed is that its symptoms can closely resemble other headache types, particularly migraine and tension headache. So let's go through the key differences, because getting this right matters for how the headache is managed. Tension headache typically presents as a bilateral pressing or tightening sensation across both sides of the head. It's generally mild to moderate in intensity and isn't worsened by physical activity. Neck pain can be present, but it tends to be a secondary feature rather than the primary driver. Migraine is a primary neurological condition. It originates within the central nervous system rather than from a musculoskeletal structure. Migraine typically presents with moderate to severe one-sided head pain, often accompanied by nausea, light sensitivity, sound sensitivity, and sometimes visual disturbances. It's not caused by a neck problem, although people with migraine can also have neck stiffness and upper cervical dysfunction. Cervicogenic headache has a different pattern to both of these. The key distinguishing features are: the headache typically starts at the base of the skull or upper neck and radiates upward into the head. It often travels to the forehead, temple, or behind the eye on the same side. The headache is triggered or worsened by neck movements or sustained postures. If your headache consistently gets worse after prolonged sitting at a desk, driving, or looking down at a screen, that's a significant indicator that the neck may be involved. It comes with neck stiffness or reduced cervical movement, not just a secondary complaint, but as a consistent associated feature. And pressing on the upper cervical joints or suboccipital muscles on the same side as the headache can intensify the headache. One important point to add here is that research by Watson and Drummond demonstrated that examination of the upper cervical joints reproduced headache symptoms in all patients with tension-type headaches and in 94% of patients with migraine. This finding suggests that the neck may be playing a contributing role in a much larger proportion of headache sufferers than is commonly recognized, not just those who have been specifically diagnosed with cervicogenic headache. So what actually causes the upper cervical dysfunction that drives a cervicogenic headache? The most common contributing factors I see in clinic are sustained desk screen or driving postures, when you hold your head in a forward position for prolonged periods, which most people do during a typical working day. It places increased load on the upper cervical joints and the suboccipital muscles at the base of the skull. Over time, this can create joint stiffness, muscle imbalance, and increased sensitivity through the upper cervical region. Upper cervical joint stiffness, reduced movement specifically at C1, C2, and C3 is consistently found on assessment in people with cervicogenic headache. This stiffness can develop gradually over time without any specific injury. muscle imbalances in the deep cervical flexors. The deep muscles at the front of the neck play an important role in controlling the position and movement of the upper cervical spine. When these muscles are underactive, the suboccipital muscles at the base of the skull tend to become overloaded and tight. A history of whiplash or cervical trauma, previous neck injuries, even those that occurred years ago, can leave residual joint stiffness and muscle imbalance in the upper cervical region that may contribute to cervicogenic headache later. Jaw clenching, grinding, or temporomandibular joint dysfunction. The muscles of the jaw and upper cervical spine are closely related, and tension through the jaw can contribute to upper cervical load and sensitivity. If you're watching this because you get recurring headaches and you're not sure what's driving them, here are the signs worth paying attention to. Your headaches start at the base of your skull or upper neck before spreading into your head. It gets worse after time at a desk, driving, or looking down at a screen. You also notice neck stiffness or tightness, even if that doesn't feel like the main problem. Your headaches haven't responded well to migraine medication or general pain relief. You've been told it might be tension headache or migraine, but the diagnosis never quite felt right. Assessment of cervicogenic headache should focus on the upper cervical spine specifically, C1, C2, and C3. This involves examining the mobility of these joints and applying gentle pressure to identify whether the upper cervical joints reproduce the typical headache pattern. When this is positive, when the assessment actually triggers the familiar headache, it strongly confirms that the cervical spine is a driver of the headaches. This is different from a general neck assessment, and it's one of the reasons cervicogenic headache can be missed if the upper cervical region isn't specifically examined. In terms of management, the evidence supports that manual therapy directed at the upper cervical joints as the primary physiotherapy treatment for cervicogenic headache. This typically involves joint mobilization at C1 to C3 to restore mobility, reduce sensitivity, and interrupt the pain pathway between the upper cervical spine and the head. Alongside manual therapy, a home exercise program targeting the deep cervical flexors is an important part of long-term management. Building control and endurance in these muscles helps address the underlying muscle imbalance that contributes to upper cervical load and headache recurrence. Postural education and load management, understanding which sustained postures are contributing to upper cervical load during the day, helps reduce the frequency of headache triggers over time. If recurring headaches and neck tightness are something you've been managing around, and especially if those headaches haven't responded to the usual approaches, it's worth getting the upper cervical spine properly assessed. If you're based in Adelaide, you can book an initial session at the MSK Studio through the link in the description. We'll do a thorough upper cervical assessment and give you a clear picture of whether your neck is contributing to your headaches and what you can do about it. If you found this video useful, subscribe for more condition-specific content. And if you know someone who gets recurring headaches that nobody has been able to explain, send this to them.